Good evening, dear friends. It's my absolute privilege to introduce Shriyam, popularly known as Sir. Well, what do I say about Sir? Simply put, a sage, a yogi in plain clothes, and a householder all rolled in one,
Plain
leading a
clothes.
very normal life just as you and I. I was drawn to Sir after reading his autobiography titled Apprentice to Himalayan Master, a yogi's autobiography. A book more fascinating than a thriller and very surreal. A must read for both believers and non believers. In 2014, I had good fortune of being initiated to Kriya Yoga by Sir. It's a defining moment for me in the journey of self discovery. No doubt it is a long and arduous road, but I found the way. Thank you, sir. Now I would like to formally introduce Sri M, a spiritual teacher, social reformer, educationist, author, and a global speaker, was born as Mumtaz Ali into a Muslim family on November 6, 1949, in Thiruvananthapuram, Kerala. His transformational journey from a young boy to a living yogi is a story of a single minded
Knowing.
discipline and dedication.
But
At the age of 19, irresistibly drawn to the snow clad Himalayas, Sri
yeah,
M
if I come now, yeah,
embarked
मेरा
on his
peddler
journey
I
to
can put
seek
a
a
stand on.
true master. Maheshwarnath Babaji, a senior disciple of Sri Guru Babaji, took Sri M under his tutelage and initiated him into the Nath tradition. For 3.5 years, Sri M lived and traveled extensively through the Himalayas with him. What he learned from Maheshanath Babaji transformed his consciousness. As instructed by his guru, Sri M returned to the plains and led a quiet working family life while preparing to teach all that he had learned and experienced. A few years after his master's passing, Sri M received a signal to commence his teaching mission. Sri M established the Satsang Foundation 20 years ago as a meeting point for spiritual seekers. Conversant with the teachings of most major religions, Sri M's teachings seek to transcend the outer shell of all religions by exploring the core and nurturing the innate goodness in every human being. In his words, go to the core. Theories are of no use. Very close to our Midtown projects, the Satsang Foundation has initiated projects for social development in the areas of education, health, skill development, and environment. It runs free schools and skill development center in Madanapalle, AP, and Latira village in UP. It runs a community health center where it facilitates quality free treatment for the community in Madanpalli. My Tree project is an initiative which actively encourages planting of trees. Projects on the anvil are a hospital to provide quality health care in Madanpalli and a center for exploring consciousness in Chaudepalli, AP. The foundation advocates that humanity is one, transcending religious, racial, geographical, cultural, and ideological differences. To spread the message of peace and harmony, Sri M led the Walk of Hope in 2015-16 from Kanyakumari to Kashmir, spanning 15 months and 7,500 kilometers across 11 states of India. As I mentioned, Sri M's autobiography, Apprentice to Himalayan Master, a yogi's autobiography, was published in 2011 and became an instant bestseller. A sequel, The Journey Continues, was published in 2017. Sri M also authored several texts on Upanishads, on meditation, and a novel, Shunya. His book on meditation, Finding Infinite Bliss and Power Within, was published by Penguin India. Two books were released in 2020, Homecoming and Other Short Stories, a collection of short stories, again by Penguin, and a translation and commentary on Patanjali's Yoga Sutra titled Yoga Also for the Godless, published by Westland Publications. All his books have been translated into many Indian languages. As a keynote speaker, Sri M has been invited to many institutions like the World Health Organization, United Nations Office in Switzerland, World Bank in USA, and the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. He has addressed corporates in India and overseas. To name a few, Google and Yahoo in the US, and many prestigious business, technical, and educational institutions like IIMs and IITs. Many awards and honors were bestowed upon Sir for his contribution to the society. Sri M was conferred with Padma Bhushan in January 2020, one of the highest civilian awards in India for distinguished service in spirituality. Sri M is married and has two children. Sir resides in Madanapalle, a 3-hour drive from Bangalore. Sir leads a very simple life, appreciative of music, and also paints in his leisure, which he finds very rarely. Dear brothers and sisters, I present to you Sri M in conversation with our President, Srikant Bhagavat. Over to you, President.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Manav, for that introduction of Sir to the gathering. Sir, I'm extremely honored and privileged and definitely nervous to be speaking with you like this. Okay. Uh, this is
Srikanth, I have a small
actually,
request. Can we ask members to go on mute, please? There are quite a few unmuted. So
yeah,
sorry about.
yeah, that's it. This is a message of utmost importance that we are going to be listening from, sir. And yes, being silent and being on mute so that we can listen to it clearly. Please do so. This is actually a dream come true for me, sir. I was hoping that one day there would be a day when we would be able to invite you and you would accept the invitation to come and address us all at Rotary Midtown. And that day has come. Thank you so much. And I hope you're feeling comfortable here. It was many years back that I had the occasion to meet you at one of the devotees' residences in Bangalore. And as a first experience, and then reading your book blew my mind, honestly. And then subsequently, I heard you once in a conversation with the Chief Justice Venkat Chadaya at Institute of World Culture, and that further drew me in. And then, of course, meeting you at your ashram was definitely a highlight in the entire process, sir. There's some questions which are there in all of our minds as commoners, sir, which I would like to keep asking you and be to benefit from your replies. At an age when most youngsters would be rather be doing something else, you decided to leave home and head for the Himalayas. What was it that compelled you to do so?
Okay. So, namaskar, good evening to all of you. As Rotarian Atul Kaushal said in the introduction, uh, what did he say? What clothes? What did you say?
Plain clothes.
Plain clothes, yes. So basically, I am for mostly for plain clothes, not so much for uniforms. Huh? So let me first of all say this before we begin, that whenever the Rotary calls me, if I know the group, I'm always ready to accept, so you don't even have to say thanks. Reason being that one of the most important things which the Rotarian Right Honorable Paul P. Harris said was service before self. This is your motto, Rotarians. So I am also the same, service before the self. So therefore, there is a meeting point, so I am very happy to address the Rotary Midtown. I thank you, Rotarian Shrikant Bhagwat, Rotarian Namrata Bhatia, and Rotarian Atul Kaushal, who is supposed to be the president-elect and club service director and so on. To your question, sir, yes, for me, see, everybody doesn't think the same way. Some people think differently. So probably you can say that when I was a young man, I also started thinking a little different from normal. If we need to do anything at all in life, we need to come out of the weather beaten track. Part 1. Part 2 is, at a very young age of 8, I was blessed by a great yogi in Trivandrum, in the backyard of my house, by a great yogi who later on turned out to be my teacher, Maheshwarnath Babaji from the Nahata Sampradaya. So in the garden, when I was playing with the kids one evening with my friends, he came, I'm not saying that he appeared like any magic, but he was there under a jackfruit tree, and he called me towards him and put his hand on my head. I think that changed my life. Already I was thinking a little differently, but that changed my life, and I had not learned any meditation or anything of the kind. As you said, I was born in a Muslim family, yes. We are fourth generation descendants of people of Pakhtun origin who were called by the Maharaja of Travancore, Martandavarma, to be their personal bodyguards. That's how our family came. Now I am a Malayali in the sense that we have 4 generations there. It's like, and now for me, India is my motherland. India is a sacred land for me because I couldn't have got the wisdom which I have if I was probably somewhere else. And this ancient system that we have in this country is incomparable and perhaps the most ancient in the world. So I sometimes tell people, if you want to serve the nation, I've coined a word, it's called Desh ki Seva Bhagavad Seva. Right? So anyway, so this is the background. But in spite of that, my parents were not orthodox. I don't think this particular brand is very orthodox. They are fun-loving kind of people. Anyway, so at a young age, I usually tell people at a certain age of 19, 20, some Khans went to Bollywood and one fellow ran away to the Himalayas. See? So there I was. All this happened because of that touch of Babaji on my head. Now the message is, even today the young people, even though they see a lot of internet and can get a little bit waylaid and so on, if they begin to think of something original, then they are moving forward and they need help. I got help. Why I am saying this is there is nothing to lose hope. There are very good young people today, I am telling you. And the future is actually bright if they get a little bit of guidance. But the guidance should come from parents who live their life and not keep advising without living the life. This is very important because the children can't be fooled. They see you. They are very intelligent. Anyway, so that's a different story. So after that, I started experiencing meditative states till the age of 18, 19. In the night, I used to sleep. There was a deep feeling, I wouldn't say in the heart section, but near the navel. And I would get completely absorbed in that blissful feeling. And I saw many things, which we need not go into detail. It went on. I met many holy men in that area, spiritual people. Some were like avdutas, some were actual sadhus and saints. At the age of 19, I got this irresistible desire to run away from everything. I felt myself kind of conditioned by various factors. I wanted to be on my own and explore the spiritual feeling which I already started getting. I didn't know where Maheshwarnath Babaji was, but the Himalayas were pulling me. Those days there is no internet, no Google, nothing. I wanted to go to Badrinath. What do? I checked all the railway guides, and then finally one day, money was not a problem because we were brought up in quite an affluent household. I just got some money and I booked it, got a ticket and I went to the Himalayas. So I walked all around Badri, all these places, and then I went up to Vyasa Gufa beyond Badrinath on the way to the last village called Mana. There I met Maheshwarnath Babaji once again. And the moment I met him, I told him, I am not going to leave you forever because I need to move forward and you are my Guru. He laughed and said, Dekha jayega. We'll see. He was like that, a very practical man. So I lived with him. He initiated me into the Nath Sampradaya. He initiated me into Kriya Yoga. And he changed my name from, which is why I'm Sri M. People say, I only say M myself. It's the name I was born with, which you already said. It's also because the name given by Maheshwarnath Babaji when he initiated me into the Nath Sampradaya was Madhukarnath. He always used to call me Madhu. And also mainly because M stands for Manushya. In Hindi, Manav. So we are all the same that way, right? So this is the adventure. That's why I went away to the Himalayas. This was your question. Sorry.
So you were so fortunate to find your guru at a very young age. How do people on the street know when they have found a guru or how to find a guru?
I personally, I tell people, look, if you are deeply inclined spiritually and you want only spiritual development, not any fancy trimmings, you don't want to walk on water or fly in the air, you want to find your true self and figure out why we are human beings, what is our true identity, The ID question, who I am, is 2000 years old maybe, because there is one Upanishad which is called the Keno Upanishad. The word Keno in Sanskrit means who. You know what happens when somebody tries to assault you, you turn around and ask, who do you think you are? So the identity crisis is very old. And in Vedanta, this is exactly what the solutions are offered for this crisis. Who are you actually? Where are you from? What's your true essence? What is your consciousness? So when one becomes really seriously inclined towards exploring these matters, then you don't have to run around anywhere. I personally believe that if you are a good student and you are really sincere and that is your top priority, somebody will come to you. You don't have to run. You can go, of course, you can search around, no harm. But then somebody will catch you. If they really find that you are a serious student, they will say, here I found, because it is, see, today, I am sorry to say this, there are enough gurus, there are no students. So we need, it's very easy to set yourself up as a guru. To become a good student is very difficult. So if you are sincere and you will say that I want no nonsense, I just want to find the truth, there is nothing else I mean, which does not mean that you should go after the, I went off for a purpose. You can study from what has happened to me, you do not have to repeat the, of course, I advise people do go to the Himalayas at least once in your lifetime, it is a completely different story, but still you can live. See, Babaji's main thing was, he said, you do not take sannyas. I wanted to take sannyas. He said, no. He said, people will come to you, they are not sannyasins, they will have their own problems. You lead a family life, then you know the difficulties of it. But before leading a family life, it will be always a good thing for people to get into the spiritual life and understand what you are going to do. Before you, Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa gave a beautiful example. He used to say that before I opened the jackfruit, I applied oil in my hands. Which is why from ancient times they have divided life into brahmacharya, grahastha-ashrama, vanaprastha and then sannyas. So, sannyas is optional. Everybody does not become a sannyasin, but they will reach up to the vanaprastha stage, which means that period when you are a brahmachari is spent in actually exploring yourself. Then you entered the grihastha life, then you know how to lead your life. What are the controls required, how to lead your life without causing injury to others, living a good life. This is very important. And therefore, so why did I say this? Yeah, so therefore I would say that if you seriously look into spiritual exploration, what clothes you wear is not important. What language you speak is not important. Of course, it is important what food you eat. Make sure that you do not hurt or kill other living beings to eat, and try to stick to the truth as much as possible. If these qualities are there, then you will certainly find a teacher. But do not fall for a teacher because he is good looking or nice or not good. I mean that's okay, but it may take you off from the path. A teacher can be sometimes hard, harsh, but it is for one's own good. I will conclude this by saying that as far as my Guru Maheshwarnath Babaji was concerned, he was actually for me like the dearest friend, mother, father, friend and Guru all rolled into one. Where he wanted to be hard, he was hard. Where he wanted to be really soft, he was so soft I used to wonder why is he doing this to me. This is a teacher, and no banner, no agenda. Today we have all this YouTube and iTube, no nothing. He was a simple man who did not even have a footwear and who refused to climb into any vehicle. And he never even sat on a car or a bus or any, he walked. So I also walked with him. In fact, when I went there, he sensed that I had this great interest in driving. You know, when I was from 16 years, I was driving. Of course, you are not supposed to legally, but So he had that. So he made sure that for 4 years I didn't even touch a car steering. He said, no, get out of this. He said, this is an attraction. You don't have. So that kind of teacher will be found if one is sincere, I think.
Sir, speaking of attractions and distractions, from what you said, does it mean that one should follow spiritual activities only after retirement?
No, no, no. It's too late. It's too late. You know what? In the ancient times, when a student went to a teacher, he's supposed to be carrying fuel in hand. Samit Pani. You should take fuel in hand. What it means that when you want to start studying spiritual things, go when you have enough fuel in you. Not when everything is exhausted. What is life? I mean, I've done everything, so now I can be spiritual. No. You can be spiritual, you should get into understanding spiritual matters even as early as your teens. And then as you progress, you can do all the work that you have to do. In fact, I have found that if you practice yogic ways of life and meditation, you can do most of the things that we do in the world with much more attention and perfection. Because the brain becomes also clear. So, it is not that you should practice spiritual life only after you become retired. One thing I must say, after retirement, at least after retirement you should. Because I remember this, there was a senior police officer, a good friend of mine, Karnataka, I won't name him, he was the head of the police for some time. So, so when he told his when his father turned 60, he presented him a Bhagavat to read, Srimad Bhagavatam. So his father said, why are you giving me this Bhagavatam? This is usually given to old people. So you know what I mean. So even when you're old, at least you should become spiritual. I agree. At least you should explore. It's in a way it's a good thing because I have passed through life. I've seen life. I've seen how life is. I've seen how people are mostly self-centered. There's nothing left. So then it's a good incentive. But the preparations should start when you're young, and when you retire, you get more time on your hands to fully get into it, if you have not got into it fully before that. But I think, yes, sorry.
Please go on.
No, that's all. Thank you.
When all of us go through our regular lives, yes, many of us, pray and do rituals, temples, masjids, churches, whatever place of worship. Is that enough, or is there something that we need to do beyond, sir?
Sir, when you say spiritual, these are okay, these are rituals, these are things that it's good to do rather than not do, because at least your mind is streaming in one direction. But if you seriously spiritually inclined, then that is not enough. Or rather, if your inclination is serious and spiritual, these are not so important also. See, you go to a temple, you pray. I know people who go to temples and when the arati is going on, they close their eyes. You know why? Because even when there is God in front of you or a representation of God, let us say in front of you, the arati is going, it is there for you to see with your eyes open. But there is this instinct in us that what is we see in front is actually inside us. This is why we close our eyes, you know. So, the basic thing is to search for that which is inside. In every human being, no matter who, no matter what age, is a walking, speaking, moving temple of God. And in our essence, in the true essence of our being, that is the true reality which we call the Atman, which is an amsha of the Supreme Being. So, while I won't say you should or should not do your rituals, it's up to you. Sometimes rituals prevent us from doing unnecessary rituals. You know, there are social life makes a lot of rituals for us. Like when the bell rings at 7:30, everybody is at the bar. That's also a ritual. Believe me. So when I sit down to have a drink, I have to say cheers. It's a ritual. The morning may be horrible, but I say good morning. This is a ritual. You see, rituals are not confined only to temple rituals. These are also rituals. I am saying that maybe religious rituals take your mind away from these useless rituals. I won't say useless. For people who use, maybe it is useful in some way. I don't know. Why do people drink? Because it paralyzes the central nervous system to a great extent, so you feel free. I understand. But you can do it through meditation, it's permanent. We also drink, yogis, but we learn how to drink inside. I find that many people who want to drink are really good people, because they find that it's not okay, what is happening, so let me free myself. I am not advocating that people should drink, I am just saying, so turn and drink from within. There was a great Sufi who said, अकल के मदरसे से उठ, get up from the bar of, from the school of the intelligence, of intellectual nothings. Ishq ke maikade mein aa, come to that tavern of ishq. Then drink the wine of bekhudi, that means where your ego is gone. Then after that, jo ho so ho, what happens will happen. This is an invitation to the spiritual bar, not the other.
All these stages are so difficult. How do we get into these stages, giving up our ego, uh, getting into the mode of love?
It's not so difficult actually. It's we have been conditioned to think that it is difficult. I think it's not difficult. Yeah, provided we are deeply interested in it. I understand that. Look, if you want to build a good bank balance, what do? We work very hard. We put that as our priority. But somewhere along the line, people don't have that spiritual priority because they don't see why it is important. So, first thing is to explore why. When it is seen as a priority, then no matter how difficult it is, people will still do it. I work so hard to make money, to buy a car, to buy a house, well, to find a girl. I find I work very hard. Can we put at least 20% of that energy into our spiritual? That's enough. Slowly it will take over. So I don't think it is difficult. It is the priorities that are to be fixed. If you have the right priority, it's not difficult. So it takes some time before we explore and find out our priorities. And that people should be allowed to find out for themselves. That is my understanding on this. Some people come to me and suddenly they say, we want to give everything up, stay with you in Madanapalle and become. I tell them, please think of what you are saying. You will not last for more than a month. Not possible to do that. You follow directions, you explore the spiritual, lead your life as you are, see if there is any change, and then if you want to have a long retreat, come. There is no point. See, look, most people cannot give up work completely. That is a mistake. Then you will lapse into laziness, which is not spiritual. Here this is very important to note that among the three gunas called sattva, rajas and tamas, very often the tamo guna could be misunderstood for sattva, because there also there is some kind of an inertia, quietness, which is not positive of course. So these are the factors that we need to look into. So I don't think, sir, that it is difficult. We have to fix our priorities and see that it is such an important thing for us to do. So we need to do it, and that's it. Yes, I can understand the difficulty, because most people go along a certain stream and somebody suddenly stands up and say, I am going to swim against the stream. It's not easy, I agree with you. But then have great things ever been achieved by anybody apart from spiritual without swimming against the stream? In Tamil they call it Edir Neechal.
Even for this thought to blossom in our minds, this wanting to explore, is it a matter of chance or destiny that we may even put this on a priority and then embark on this journey, sir?
Right. This is a good question, actually, very important question. Let me tell you this. Some people, like Abraham Lincoln, I said, are born great. Some achieve greatness, some have greatness thrust upon them. This famous Gettysburg Address of Abraham Lincoln. Well, some people at the very young age think about it. Reason, perhaps in their past life, now you need to understand, need to believe if past life is there or not. Some people get to think about it very young because in their past lives they have worked towards it. They are only fulfilling it in this life. Others, through pain and suffering, wake up to the fact that this is not life, there must be something else. It need not be pain to oneself. It can be pain caused by a dear and near one going away, which was so common during the COVID episode. We are just coming to the fag end of it even now. Suddenly your dear and near ones have disappeared and you begin to wonder, is this life? Is there something more than that? Which is why the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is called Arjuna Vishada Yoga, sorrow of Arjuna, beginning of inquiry. So some people in their youth, when they are young, they begin to think about these matters because of their past. Some, seeing life, they are intelligent, they begin to wonder, is this all life is or is there something more? When the thought process begins, then you are on your way. Now, sometimes if you meet somebody, now that may be also because of various conditions, who has already touched that, you feel this great attraction towards it. Also your attraction becomes more. Why? Because there is a magnet and you have an iron piece close by, the closer you go, the iron piece becomes a magnet. It may be temporary, when you remove it, it again becomes an iron piece until it becomes a permanent magnet. It's a temporary magnet. So in some people, this desire is aroused when they see someone who has touched it and feel there's something different about this guy. Circumstances don't seem to affect him. Sarvatra samabuddhaya, in the words of the Gita. Under all circumstances, this guy seems to be samabuddha, buddhi, which means tranquil at all times. How is this possible? So that thought comes. So the three reasons I can give you. One is by birth, which is because of the past. Two, by seeing life, the intelligent person soon realizes there must be something beyond this. It can't be just this much. Here today and gone tomorrow, so what's life? And such people begin to think and go near someone who has touched it, they get move more into it. Sometimes you are not thinking of any of these things and yet you encounter someone who has touched it and you feel there's something different about this guy. Do I have that which he has? And then the journey starts. So there are different ways when this enquiry begins.
I have a question now which is a little different, sir. As an enlightened person, do you see the world differently?
I don't know if I am enlightened, sir, but yes, I see only one thing in this whole world differently. Otherwise, everything is the same, like you have, because my eyes have the same kind of instrument. The lenses are convex and I see the same thing. But one thing, which is I see what is inside rather than what is outside. Let me put it this way. Swami Vivekananda called it Vedantic socialism, which means all are same. How? Actually all are not same. we are born different, we have different professions, we have different characters, but there is one quality, one thing in us, one element which is common, which is we are all a spark of the divine. All of us, no matter the worst criminal, he still has a spark of the divine inside, man or woman. So, when you see that, I see that more than the external. Some people complain, this guy is such a terrible fellow, why are you encouraging him, why are you so close to him? Because I see that there is a spark inside which can become a blazing fire. So, that I see differently, because I think however whatever people are outside, deep down they are a spark of the divine. This is the difference of view. So, I mix with politicians, I mix with sometimes even the worst. Sometimes I sit in a bar and with somebody who is having a drink. Nowadays people are afraid. They think if I sit with them, they may stop drinking after a while. so I, because I see only what is inside, I don't see what's outside, and I want everybody to see that for themselves. This view is different, world view. So instead of human, I see the divine. Yes. That way I see differently. So it's 8 o'clock, or you have one more question?
Yes, sir. How does one start off in this journey? Are there any practices which you would like us to do? Uh, and can you show us some of these simple practices, sir?
It's too much of a short forum to do that. However, since you have asked the question, if you are inclined to it, first the inclination has to be there. Now, the inclination need not be for suddenly reaching the highest stage of self-realization. Even if there is a smattering, a little bit of a interest in finding out if there are hidden depths in us, then we can start with simple things. One of the simple things which will also calm your mind in the midst of circumstances and make you more efficient and cool in this world. The young people always say, you are so cool. So this cool in this world is to fix at least 10 minutes of your day for some kind of simple meditation. 10 minutes are more than enough. In olden days, people used to do their Sandhya Vandana, people used to chant their Gayatri. Now it's all gone. We do many things, but we forget this part. So I won't say everybody should do Sandhya Vandana, it takes quite some time. But at least if we can find in the morning, start our day with a little bit of simple meditation, and then in the evening before you go to sleep, do a little bit of 10 minutes meditation. I think that is sufficient to start with. Even busy people can do that. And one technique which is very simple, one thing you should notice, our moods and our mind states are dependent on the rhythm of our breath, of our breathing. If you are agitated, the breathing is agitated. If you are calm, the breathing is calm. So there is a technique which we call the hum saw, which means start being aware of your breathing. It will take you 10 minutes. Sit down quietly first, put your hands together, bow down to the earth which gives us food. And if you have any great divine beings in mind, bow down to them and say, I seek help. Then sit down, close your eyes, if possible folded legs, otherwise chairs are also fine, and then become aware of your breath. We are never aware of our breath. It's such an important thing. When it stops, we are gone. When it comes in, the child becomes alive in the womb. So watch your breath. It's so sacred. This is called pranayam, watching your breath. Now there are different kinds, of course. So what I am suggesting, get up in the morning, go to the toilet, wash your face, come back, sit down before you start the day for 10 minutes, close your eyes, watch your breath. One way of doing that is as you inhale, give complete attention to it. Don't even control it. If you want, you can, but you don't. You just watch as it comes in and say, I am following my breath. As the breath goes in, chant in your mind, not loudly, the sound of hum. And when you exhale, chant the sound of sa. Hum sa. Hum sa means I am that. So allow this to happen softly without any forced inhalations. Watch your breath and say hum and sa as you move in and out. Do this for 5-6 minutes. You will notice that your mind has become quiet by then. Then chant Om a few times. Just chant Om, long Om. Om. Stay there, do a few times, then stop that also and sit quietly. No matter what thoughts occur, don't be disturbed, allow them to come and go, sit as if you are watching the TV, doing nothing. You are the witness. This much if you do, even 10 minutes every day, it will help you to save energy, it will help you to calm your mind. A distracted mind is the main thing that causes energy loss. So, when the mind is calm, energy is gathered. Now, this energy you can use for any constructive activity. Service before self. Simple, anybody can do it. This is the time when you have a Ishta Devta. I know I have lots of friends who are Christians, who are Buddhists. I said, this is the time when you are sitting quietly after doing this much. Fix your Ishta Devata in your heart and keep it there. It could be Narayana, it could be Shiva, it could be Jesus Christ, it could be Om, and stay there for some time, enjoying. You will find when you do that, there is some kind of subtle enjoyment going on inside. Absorb yourself in that, then bow down and say thank you. This much is I can give you now as a practical.
Thank you so much. Sir, I think number of our members have questions. They're eagerly awaiting to ask you questions. How many questions is okay?
Sir, it is 8 o'clock already. I was told 7 to 8. As I said, I am a family man also. So, I don't want a divorce petition thrown at me. So, so one or two questions we can still take up.
Thank you, sir. That's very kind of you. And ma'am, would you be able to
Yes,
please?
I'll take over. Yes.
Yeah.
What a beautiful conversation, so calming and so, I would say, inspirational. Thank you so much for coming over here and enlightening us with this talk. I'd like the First Lady, Syama, to please ask you a question.
Who?
She's our First Lady,
Okay.
Syama.
Right.
My pranams to you, sir.
Namaskar.
Sir, my question is, we consider God as our universal mother and father. He is omniscient and he knows everything. And though we don't ask him, he gives us whatever we want at the right time. This is one part. And the other part is, there is a saying that goes, unless asked, sometimes even a mother also will not give us what we want. So in that sense, is it okay to ask God for our wants?
You're right. There are two types of people. A yogi doesn't ask for anything. He only asks to go nearer to the Supreme, to the Divine. He doesn't ask for anything because he follows the same logic which you said just now that God knows. There's nothing to ask. But most people are not yogis. We have our own problems, we have our own weaknesses. So naturally we turn to asking. There are people who, even if they go to a dentist, they want to ask, please help me God that I will get pain in my tooth and so on. I mean, I'm not surprised, because people are human beings, have their own problems and weaknesses, and if they don't ask God, if there is a divine being, who will they ask? They can't ask anybody else. So there is no harm, there is nothing wrong in asking, but the first thing that you said applies. God knows. If there is an omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient divine being, he knows what you want. But then what you need may not be what you want. Very often we want something which may not be what we really need, but this may be our want. So when you say, I want this, also add, now I leave it to you. You decide. So if it doesn't happen, don't say, oh, I asked, God didn't give me. Even Jesus Christ said, ask and it shall be given thee. So when you ask, you may get what you ask, or you may get what you really deserve. This is also possible. So it's nice, it's good to ask, but don't afterwards, if you don't get what you ask, keep blaming God for it. So what kind of God is this? He is not giving what I want. Perhaps he knows or she knows. For me, God is both he, she, or that supreme. What you actually want, what you actually need, you may get that. But you say, no, no, this is not what I wanted. So keep that in mind when you pray. So in the end, usually add a sentence, I have asked, according to me, this is what I want. It's up to you, because you know what my life.
Thank you so much. I have two more questions only, please. I'll ask Sangeeta Podar to please ask her question.
Jai Gurudev. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. It's been amazing hearing you, Shriem. It has always been my heart's desire to meet a lineage of Mahavatar Babaji, and here Nan's given me this opportunity. I'm so privileged. I have read the autobiography of the yogi and always wondered how miraculously all the gurus have connected to their disciples, heard their pleas, answered their prayers, connected to them when they were miles away. Is that my question is that it's such greatness? Can it be achieved by mankind today also?
Yeah, of course. I have no doubt on this. If you are serious, and if you are one pointed, and if you are sincere, anytime, anywhere, it's possible.
Wow. Thank you so much. It inspires me more to read such books and to pursue my
Right.
goals. Thank you
Right.
so much. Yeah.
Thank you, Sangeeta. Shriyam, I have a question. Do our thoughts create our reality?
Huh?
And do we actually
Say that again.
do our thoughts create our realities?
Mm-hmm.
And do we actually attract in our life what we think of?
Yes, we do. Uh, call it the capacity of the mind to think, to be aware, to be conscious, comes from the source, which is the supreme reality itself. So when the mind thinks continuously of something, generally it becomes a fact. See, uh, human beings are an exception from other animals, not because other animals are not intelligent, they are very intelligent. I know my dogs, I think sometimes my dogs are more intelligent than many people. They are nice fellows. But what I mean to say is, the difference between other animals and human being, the human being has been given the capacity to visualize. The whole universe is supposed to be a sankalpa of the Supreme Being, and we have been in some way given the capacity to do sankalpas. If you want to build a house, what do? You first conceive of it, and then plans come and other thing, and then it becomes a reality after a while. In the same way, when the yogi has attained a certain level, then his mind can instantly bring about what takes time for others to get. So the mind indeed is a powerful tool, because the mind is given its capacity to visualize, to think by the essence, which is the supreme consciousness. So, yes, the mind has the capacity to achieve what it wants. Only thing is, sometimes you don't achieve what you want or what you think or what you visualize. There may be flaws either in the visualization, or there may be, you may not be knowing the technique of how to do it, or maybe it's half hearted, maybe may not be. So, there are various reasons why it does not work, but generally it happens. Also, there is the saving grace of the divine being. If it's figured out by the divine that what you actually want is dangerous either to you or to others, it may not come. That is also there. I may think it is good, but it may not be in the long run good for you. So, it may not work. So, that is the time when we should not get upset and say, okay, fine, now let me go to the next. That is called karma yoga. To work, to visualize, try to achieve, but not worry if the results do not happen fully. A mind like that actually gets more energy to visualize, and generally things happen.
So beautifully explained, Shyam. Maybe we should work with a workshop with you. I'll speak to the president, and we'd love to come and spend some time with you,
Sure,
Shyam,
sure.
if you have
You are
if you
welcome.
allow us. Yeah, and I think I won't trouble you with any more questions. I'll ask Radhika Hormusji to please give us the vote of thanks. Thank you so much.
Where is dear Radhika?
Radhika,
Please unmute yourself. It's been
can she
so
unmute?
calming listening. Just listening to you has been so calming, sir.
Because I am calm.
Yes, we can
Radhika,
hear you, Radhika. Please go ahead.
Okay.
we
Good
can't.
evening to you all.
Ah,
Anand sir. Firstly, on behalf of the Rotary Bangalore Midtown, I wish to thank our honorable guest speaker for this evening, Sri M. Sir, for giving us his valuable time to share some of that ancient wisdom coming from his own personal experience with all of us here at Midtown. We are truly honored and blessed to have you with us today. Thank you, sir. Thank you for that wonderful insight into the subject of spirituality and its relevance in our daily life. It has been truly inspiring a session in this question and answer that has been put forth, where you have talked about the actual journey in the spiritual life and the difficulties encountered and the ways to overcome them by perseverance and also with the guidance of true masters. I think by uh, getting such inputs, everyone can be benefited in some way if we can learn to apply them in dealing with our own trials and tribulations that we come across in our daily lives. I think this can be very useful to a lot of us and benefit many of us. Thank you, sir, for enlightening us on these matters. I also feel that a lot of learning and healing takes place very often by merely being in the presence of an enlightened being. It has also been my personal experience having attended several of your talks. Thank you again for that. Um, I think um, being here with us itself is a kind of a like a beacon of light that can lead us from darkness of ignorance to the light of true knowledge, especially in these uncertain times when everywhere we experience that we see so much of sorrow and grief all around. Incidentally, Midtown has had the opportunity of participating in some of the Satsang Foundation and Manav Ekta mission earlier, like the Walk of Hope 2015 Padayatra, when it passed through Bangalore, where many of our Rotarians ants had actively taken part in the walk, as well as in the cultural programs that were held in the city. It was also, we also had a presentation here at Midtown, where we were able to showcase the vision of the Padayatra as conceived by you, sir. It was truly a memorable experience. We all look forward to having you with us again in the future, perhaps in person. And thank you for this wonderful time here where we have been able to share that wisdom.
Thank you.
I also want to thank Srimati Lakshmi Kumar and her team from the Satsang Foundation, and who have all worked hard to coordinate and put together this event. Thank you, Lakshmi, and your team. I also wish to thank now our President, Rotarian Shrikant Bhagavat, for conceiving of this program, bringing it to our attention, and for co-hosting and moderating the question and answer session with Sri M. Sir. It was most inspiring. Most of all, I wish to thank you for giving me this opportunity to give the vote of thanks for this evening's program with Sri M. Sir. I feel greatly honored and blessed to be
Hi.
this event. Thank you. I thank, I think, I thank our club secretary, Rotarian Namrata ji, and our club service director, Rotarian Atul Kaushal, for coordinating the program, and also Rotarian Srinath for giving the introduction to Shriyan. And thank so many who have helped in putting this program together. Most of all, I wish to thank all our fellow Rotarians and dear friends who have attended today's program. I'm sure it has been an inspiring and enriching an experience for all our viewers. I thank you all. I thank you, sir, once again, and wish all of you a very pleasant evening ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. My gratitudes to you.
I can go now.
Thank you, sir. My pranams. Yes, sir. Please go.
We don't want to let you go, but
Yeah, we really don't want to let you
Okay.
go, but we would look forward to seeing you again.
Sure.
I
Thank you,
hope we
Namrata.
can come there one of these days and be with you.
Yeah, we should go, Shrikant. Let's